Hello there, everyone, and welcome to round 5 of the Ottercar AI Racing League. We are here today at the historic Martinsville Speedway. This track opened, I believe, back in 1947 and has held a NASCAR race at every year since NASCAR was founded in 1949. It does look like our drivers are making their way down to the grid, though. So, how about we take a look at our starting lineup for today? Starting on pole, yet again, driving the number 717 machine is Pete Comedy, two-time winner now. And starting to his outside in the number 21 machine is August. In third place, the mystery man himself, still don't know where this guy came from, drop table roster in the number 369. In fourth place, in what is, I believe, her best ever start, is Med. Fifth place to Piper in the number 8, and sixth to Lake in the 330. In seventh for the Rainbow Society is Arvo Soberov in the number 429 machine. And to his outside is Madcap in the number 38 for Blazed and Drunk Drivers. In ninth place is Humongous for the Rainbow Society Team 2 in the 621 machine, with his teammate Maroon in the 25 on his outside. In 11th is Frosty Film, a winner here in the AI Racing League. He won our first race here. And rounding out the first half of the field in 12th is Sarah Saviron in the 117. Starting off row 7 is Dragon Space Queen for Blazed and Drunk Drivers in the number 37 machine. And 14th for the Rainbow Society Team 2 is Oh You Know in the 420. 15th to Halo in the 0, and 16th to Octave in the 11. 17th to Zoe in the 666 entry. 18th to Pav in the number 12 for the Rainbow Society, 19th to Stick in the 53, 20th to Bloody Wolf in the 93, 21st to Thirds in the number 3 entry, 22nd to Bend Over in the 69, 23rd to Felix Marais in the 217, and rounding out our field here today is Valnar in the 776 machine. That said, the pace car is just about to be off, and we are, never mind, we're on the backstretch now.
Here we are once again at the famous paperclip, the half mile of mayhem, Martinsville, Virginia. It's an old-fashioned racetrack, and indeed, as I said, the oldest one in the league. I would waffle on some more, but it seems that the pace car has dipped into the pits, and we're underway.
That we are. Pete Comedy, of course, off to a solid start down on the inside lane, getting a fairly decent run going, but it looks like we're already 3 wide in the back through turn 1. The drivers did manage, for the most part, to keep everything going. Humongous making a little bit of contact with Arvo Soberov, though, but it looks like everyone is managing to keep things nice and orderly for the most part right now. That said, with a track that is narrow and as fast as this one is, things are going to fall apart very quickly. That 3 wide situation right there between Lake, Frosty, and Dragon Space Queen had the potential to go very wrong very quickly. Med pushed up to the outside wall a little bit, but she manages to keep it off there somehow. These drivers only 3 laps in, and they're already throwing the punches here tonight.
You can see even on this, due to this massively short track, even though everyone's been in the contention, in the fight to try and push ahead, the spread of times with all these drivers is drastically increasing. The people in the top 10 alone is a 4-second differential from the end of from 10th place to 1st place, and I expect that will get worse as the race progresses, and we may see some laps, and gosh knows what happens then.
Yeah, that is very much a possibility. These corners are pretty difficult to navigate, and if you make any sort of mistake on them, you can end up with a pretty massive time loss. So a lot of these drivers, I think consistency is probably a lot more important on this track than raw pace. You can already start to see the brake rotors glowing on some of these entries from how hard they're having to slam on the brakes into every corner, which definitely is not going to be doing them any favors in the long run here.
You can also see a sort of pattern is emerging where drivers are having to go nose to tail because they spend so little time driving in a straight line before having to immediately turn back into the left, just to try and keep pace with the tightness and the shortness of this track. We are lapping so quick and so fast that yes, this is quickly turning into a sequential looking race.
Just a bit, yeah. Back in the back here, this is for the 18th position with thirds and Felix Marais. These drivers have been making Nerf bar contact almost every turn, but thankfully everyone has managed to keep it going here for the most part. But that could very much change, especially as these brakes and tires wear down. Eventually, someone might make a mistake and overdrive the corner a bit.
The average lap time on this track is looking to be about 19 seconds, and we already have I believe it's 11-second differential between first and last place. So give it a couple more laps and we will see the front of the pack reaching the back of the pack. And I will tell you now, race fans, commentating on 12 people lapping the other 12 is going to be hell on earth, but we'll try our best.
It is, but hey, at least that might mean that shenanigans will ensue. We've seen in the past that lap cars are not treated with very much respect here in the Ottercar iRacing League, and I would not be surprised on a track as narrow as this if bumpers are used the way they were at Southern National. There are going to be pretty big wrecks. But look at that, humongous in the top four yet again, up 5 positions from where he qualified. He is not our biggest mover here today, but he has made a pretty considerable gain so far in this race. And after so many close finishes to the podium, I'm sure that this might just be the one where he's going to make it happen.
This is true. I mean, the race commentator is absolutely correct, and he knows exactly what's coming to him if his predictions fail to meet reality. But we've established this on this race channel before, and I won't harp on it. But we all know what he's in for.
Yeah, that we do, and that's why Humongous is gonna somehow make up the 1.5 difference he has between himself and Drop Table roster.
Yeah, the top 5 people have more time difference between them than the bottom 12, which is great to see. Not really, because it means that the lead keeps getting longer, and I think we may just have to wait for those lapped cars, which are rapidly approaching, to make their impact on the track in order to stop the unstoppable, which is Peak Comedy, and closely followed by August the Bat.
Indeed, looking back at our current driver in last place, thirds in that number 3 entry, currently at a 15-second gap behind the leaders, which is definitely not looking good considering that the lap times around this track are only 19 seconds. You can see Peak Comedy there rounding the corner, slowly catching up to these drivers. Peak Comedy, a 2-time winner here in the Ottercar Racing Series. He got a win at the road course at Summit Point, and then another one last week at Rockingham. He has been putting on a very dominant performance in these past couple races, which is kind of surprising because in his races before that, he was really struggling. He got involved in some massive wrecks fairly early on into both races, but it looks like when he's able to avoid any sort of drama, he can put together a very solid run.
You can actually see now that down on the straights, Peak Comedy is staring right up the arse of thirds, figuratively, and we'll soon see he may be held back. by the tail end of the competition. I'm eagerly awaiting it because, oh, you can see on this corner, he's coming in almost just behind him. We still have 50 laps to go here, so how he'll navigate the rest of the field trying to outplay him is a matter yet to be seen. August Bat is still giving him his run for the money. This is the only driver really contesting this dominant driver. August has done very well before in previous races, but has never clinched the win. I'm hoping here that, yep, Comedy has just caught up to thirds, and well, there he goes, immediately overtaking that person in last place. Very unfortunate. Held by the queer car a little bit, but does not seem to be phased by these lap drivers in the slightest.
Yeah, it does look like, for the most part, the lap cars are trying to not get run over by Peak Comedy. They do have experience of what happens when they hold him up, and generally it does not look pretty for them. So I'd imagine most of these lap cars are trying to get out of the way as much as they can, or else face the wrath of the chrome horn of the 717 machine. No one wants to see that Reddit logo in their rearview mirror, and I wouldn't either.
No, but it does seem like his dominance is pretty much unchallenged. Every time he's on the straight, he overtakes another car. They just move to the right. They don't want to get involved with Big Chungus and the repercussions that may come with that.
Yeah, it does seem, however, that for the most part, August is just as able to capitalize on drivers moving out of the way for Peak Comedy, so no one's really interfering with this lead battle very much, and I do think that given time, this lap traffic may be able to play into August's favor.
Yeah, the time differentials between all these drivers is absolutely drastic. Just in the top 10, you see 0.2 of a second, then 2 whole seconds, 0.25 of seconds, then 6 whole seconds, then 7.5, then 9. It is really stretching this field out thin and fast.
Yeah, that's sometimes how it goes, especially at a particularly difficult track like this. This honestly, a little bit contact between Valnar and August there. This honestly is sort of what you can expect at this track in real life sometimes, especially in lower level amateur divisions, that the field can get very spread out just by how the drivers feel comfortable taking these corners. You pretty much are having to go from roughly 90 miles per hour to about 40 through these corners, so you're having to quite literally cut your speed in half through into each corner.
We would like to congratulate about 7 of these drivers because they have currently broken the real-life race record. 7 different independent people have all broken fastest lap for the half-mile of mayhem at Martinsville.
Have they seriously?
Race lap record is 18.74 seconds, and we have 6 people who have solidly broken that record. Congratulations to all those. However, this does not mean anything in the face of unseating Peak Comedy and August Bat's dominance over this field. It remains to be seen what can happen to really shake up this track.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised that the real world track record is still being held by a race from 1986, and I would imagine that the cars that, or the technology that these well-and 200 modifieds possess are probably a little bit better than what they had in the 1980s.
There may be a playing factor. Though 1980s NASCAR, as we well know, was kind of the Wild West of racing. There were no limits, no speed caps, no restrictor plates in play. People could kind of go as fast as they like and die trying. Much as the same. A lot of times
they did.
Yeah, as they did, and much as the same in races like these, where, especially in previous races, we've had several cautions resulting in many tragic deaths. Figuratively, of course, they are summoned back from the dead just to carry on racing, like the eternal puppet masters we are. But yes, several major incidents have occurred on these Ottercar tracks. However, not today. We are having a very clean, very solid race. where everyone is kind of either too scared to unseat this man's dominance, or, well, it is a really short track. It's really hard to cause such a major pileup, but when it does happen, it will happen big.
And honestly, there's a decent chance we might see something going wrong right here as Pete Comedy comes up on 4 lap cars that are battling 2 by 2. Pushing it 3 wide here has historically not been a very good option, and I would not be surprised if Pete Comedy is going to try and get his nose beneath that 420 entry of Oh You Know and just absolutely throw his opponents out of the way. He did get a little bit squirrely there when he got his tires down on the apron, but it does look like he's managing to keep it going, but there's just nowhere he can really go around these 4 cars.
One race commentator will be back. He has to tame a feral animal in this room right now.
There are in fact multiple feral animals wild in the race booth right now, but that is not going to stop us from bringing you this live race action here from Martinsville. August now making his way through the pack and getting a bumper down on Pete Comedy. August is your new race leader, and he will be the leader that time by. We do have ourselves a new race leader. We'll have to see if August is able to hold on to these onto this lead, because Pete Comedy is very much breathing down his neck right now, but it does look like Octave in that number 11 machine is trying to do what he can to help August out. Octave is an independent driver here in the Ottercar Racing League. He's not affiliated with any teams, but he has in the past tried to do what he can to help the, I wouldn't say more rookie drivers, but to it's noticeable that generally he tries to upset the people who already have wins so that people who don't have wins can add their name to the record book, so to speak. And it looks like that's exactly what he's doing here today, as he holds up Pete Comedy in that 717 and allows August to start to build a little bit of a lead here.
Yes, Pete Comedy is in fact coping and seething as he watches a million octaves taunt him from back behind his car, but sees the opportunity arise and has just slammed on those brakes, trying to eke out a lead in front of that car that was holding him back. And now he's breathing down the neck of August Bat once again, desperate to lead as he has done for so many races and so many laps before. And it looks like he's just... Oh, that was a little nervous wreck. No, a little nervous tap from August Bat there, losing his composure just a little bit. That one slip up, Pete Comedy will take full advantage of and be absolutely ruthless about.
That said, it looks like Pete Comedy is going to make the same mistake, and August is going to get the lead back. These two drivers are really duking it out here, going back and forth. Every time they make a little bit of a mistake, the other one manages to capitalize on it. And now that Madcap has been pushed up out of the way, these two drivers are going to have a little bit of open room to work with. Humongous now up another position, now in the top 3. He is a bit of a ways behind our two race leaders, but he also has a very comfortable gap to work with, so I'd imagine he's going to take his time with this lap traffic here and eventually make his way back up to the leaders, because he does not have to worry about any pressure coming from behind him. Further back on the track, aside from the shenanigans we've been currently seeing with our race leader in lap traffic, Piper and Sarah Saviron here for the 6th position, having a very close battle. Piper has been doing pretty well. He's been finishing fairly consistently in the top 10 here in the Ottercar Racing League. He's not been doing anything particularly spectacular, but at the same time he's also not been doing poorly by any means, and it looks like he is going to be continuing that trend, currently in the 6th position, looking to try and catch up to Lake in that 330 machine and maybe make it a top 5 finish for him.
Yes, Peter the Piper, the pansexual, has been doing extremely well this race, as he has with any other race, and some fucking rodent is eating plastic in the back of the room. I hope y'all race fans can't hear that, but I hope he dies a slow and miserable death.
That does go to show some of the conditions we have to put up with to do this commentating. Sometimes they just put us in a booth with rodents. I'm not sure what health and safety officials has decided that was okay, but we're not going to complain. We're getting paid well enough to do this, so we just gotta make things work. Piper is, however, going to secure himself a top 5 position, getting around Lake in that yellow and purple 330 machine. And it looks like he's going to start working his way through lap traffic now as well.
As I said earlier before this race, these intervals between these drivers are just so dramatic now. It's hard to tell what's exactly going to happen here, because first and second place are in with 1/10 of a second. Every time I see them, they seem to be lapping each other. There's a real battle for first place. But then third, fourth, fifth position takes us down to a minus 11-second interval. This is looking like a real bad race to not be in the top 2 spot. August and Comedy are pretty much the real contenders in this race right now, as the number of people being lapped by the dominance of Peak Comedy increases.
Yeah, these two drivers taking very different lines around the speedway. August trying to make the outside work for him. Pete Comedy, however, keeping his car for the most part down in the middle of the track, if not all the way down on the low line, even on the front stretch, which is not necessarily where you want to be, but if you can make it work for you, then you can make it work for you. That said, August still is very much hot on his heels, just trying to do what he can to find a way around him. Arvo Soberov here might be just the little bit of leverage August needs to get that position back, depending on how Arvo responds to having lap traffic behind him. Arvo in that number 429 machine, one of our Czech drivers here, traveled all the way from Central Europe to the United States, specifically here in Virginia, to race here at Martinsville Speedway. And you know what? He's currently in 11th position. He may be a lap down now, but he is not doing half bad.
He seems to be impeding the only contender in this race, August the Bat. August cannot find a way around this Czech driver, and Czech driver Arvo Soberov does not seem to be having any of it. He is determined not to be lapped by yet another person in this race. And it seems to be causing a lot of frustration for August, that he can't find the right racing line to try and supersede him. Finally getting the overtake on there, but that was quite a struggle. I imagine there'll be some stern words in the pit lane after the end of this race.
Oh yeah, of course. Admittedly, here on the iRacing.com platform, blue flags are entirely informational, so you are not obligated to move over for lead lap cars like you would in, say, F1, but that does not mean that it is not impolite to be blocking the lead lap drivers. Respect is kind of paramount on the racetrack, and generally speaking, if you the way you treat people will come back to you, and I would not be surprised if the situation is reversed in a future race, that August would not hesitate to hold up Arvo.
No, revenge is a dish best served cold, sweet, and with a gun. Guns may be pulled on these races during and after the race in future. I see in the audience chat lane we have several people planning.
Oh, and Pete Comedy and August both just wrecked with 11 laps to go.
Oh, that is quite the shocking turnaround. Everyone in the track is pulling up behind him, absolutely nowhere to go. And look, number 12 is the only person who's currently made it around. Can they make it a full lap without with these cars being as stuck as they fucking are?
The caution is out, so the field's positions have been frozen. So everyone who actually did drive around this wreck should be put back to where they were when the wreck happened. Well, for the most part, iRacing can be a little finicky with that. Some of those drivers, if they actually like nudge the wreck at all, might be considered part of it, in which case they would go back to the back. So we will have to see how the iRacing manager handles that incident, but in the meantime, how about we take a look back and see what just happened to our race leaders?
Just like that, the entire field has just been shaken up. Sarah Saviron seems to be in the lead here. It remains to be seen if everyone will resume their original positions, but just like that, the bottom 12 have pretty much migrated straight to the top, or at least there's just been a huge shift around.
Yeah, things are all sorts of topsy-turvy now. It does look like some drivers may have pit in, and that might have been part of what
No,
happened.
that was
Yeah.
simply a forced error on Pete Comedy's part. He just went straight into the wall. He's turned left for 70 laps of this race, and I guess the 71st was the one he couldn't make it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of contact there between Peak Comedy and Halo in the Zero machine. Halo being a lapped car, just trying to do everything it could to stay out of trouble, but when getting pushed three wide by thirds like that, Halo drifted up a little bit to the high side, and there was just
That little
nothing
bit.
it could really do to avoid making contact with Peak Comedy.
It knew exactly what it was doing there, I would like to think. I see. It made the correct move and forced Pete Comedy into the wall. I thought Pete Comedy made that error unforced, but it appeared that the number zero car did in fact deliberate on that, and we have the first blood of the race.
Yeah, I was almost starting to think that it wouldn't happen here tonight, but sure enough, sometimes, I mean, the race isn't over until it's over. Let's ride on board with August for that incident. Take a look at August's cockpit cam here. August, unfortunately, was collected in that whole incident. You can see thirds pushing it three wide with Halo and Peak Comedy. Peak gets up into the wall, and there's just
Nothing he can
nothing
do.
August could do to react to that.
August unfortunately has wound up with his car in quite the unfortunate position. Pete Comedy appears to have not been able to restart his car midway through the track. So that remains to be seen when we'll be off caution, who will be in the lead again, and it seems like the race is filling up once more.
Yeah, we are getting ready to go green flag racing again for a 5-lap shootout, and Sarah Saviron is our new race leader. It does look like a lot of drivers pit in there. I'm not sure if there were concerns on fuel or what quite happened, because Sarah was definitely not anywhere in contention to be taking the lead with those two wrecked out. So I do think that a pit cycle has really thrown off our projections of how this race was going to go.
Just like that, in the last 10 laps of this race, it is completely flipped on its head. Remains to be seen with the dominant drivers who were so dominant before can pull a fast one and secure some extra places, but we do seem to be on caution for a majority of what's left of this race.
Yeah, we're going green flag racing now. The pace car just came off. When we cross the line, there will be 4 laps to go for these drivers to make whatever moves they can here. I would imagine a lot of punches are going to be thrown. We did see a pretty decent amount of congestion back in the pack, especially with those lapped cars. Med, Halo, Thirds, Octave, everyone in a very tight gaggle here trying to navigate one another. We do have a pretty solid battle for the lead here going on here between Lake and Sarah Saviron, though. Lake stuck up on the high side, but she's trying to best to make it work here in that 330 machine.
And there she goes with the overtake, but it's on the hard right. Can she make it through the turn? No, Sarah Saviron has just edged it out in front of her. They? I am not sure, but it is a fierce battle in the front, and no one's sure who's going to win this one. Even third position is looking pretty contentious right now.
Yeah, this is a very difficult race to call. Lake is definitely losing speed in the corners, but it seems like she has a better run down the straightaways. That said, Sarah Saviron has moved up to block.
And as we come into the final turn here, it looks like Sarah Saviron and Lake are failing to overtake Dragon Space Queen, Frosty Phil, Maroon, Piper, and, well, Pav hasn't actually finished yet, but they look like the most likely to finish in 7th place.
And there we are. Sarah Saviron in the 117 is our race winner in a drastic upset, I've got to say. She finished 11 positions higher than where she qualified. She wasn't even the biggest mover this race, but she still managed to get things done here at the Martinsville Speedway in a very shocking turn of events.
What an upset that's got to be, especially for the drivers of August, especially for Peak Comedy, especially for Humongous, just to have such a race dominance, such a close fight for so long, and then all comes down to the last 4 laps. It's a true upset, much like the Formula One Grand Prix 2021, where Lewis Hamilton led, I think, 29 of 30 laps, and the very last lap, Max Verstappen just overcame, and this is exactly like that, except with furries.
Except with furries, and admittedly, we did not have race control making very questionable decisions on how the orders and the rules of the race should be interpreted on the last lap of the championship. But sometimes that's how racing ends up going. It's not over till it's over, and even sometimes when it looks like it has been completely decided, something can go very catastrophically wrong. I think the same could be said, like, for example, with last year's Pocono race. Kyle Larson led almost every lap of the race. He had a several second lead over the second place driver, and on the final corner of the final lap, his tire blew, and he ended up finishing outside of the top 10, I believe. So sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. Even if you do win almost every lap of the race, it does come down to who's there at the end.
You can see in the positioned gained screen on this racing board, we have such a wide array of numbers and position gains. Sarah Zviron up 11 places, Piper down 1 place, Felix Marais up 15, Valnar 14, Pav 11, Bendover 13, and as you go down the list, if you could do that, I see. You get the complete opposite. Peak Comedy, August, minus 22 positions. Humongous, minus 16. It's a disaster for those racers who were doing so well in the beginning. Med, who started out so strong, has unfortunately been caught up in that massive mess, and, well, we all float down here. It's okay, race fans. There's always another chance.
There always is another chance, and next week, I believe, if I remember correctly, we are going to the Langley Speedway, if I'm correct. Let me look. It's either Langley or Lanier. Both tracks are... Okay, we are going to Lanier next week. That one will be fairly tricky. Lanier is definitely one of the short and stubby bullring style tracks that has very little in the way of banking, so I would imagine things will be fairly spicy there. It's smaller than Southern National, but otherwise sort of similar in that style of track. So things will be tight. They will not be as tight as they are here at this narrow Martinsville Speedway, but they will be definitely a bit hectic because they will be able to carry more speed through the corners despite the smaller size of the track.
But you can see us now with our slightly slow victory lap slash... Wait, is this the pace car lap or is this the victory lap for Sarah Saviron?
This is a replay that's on
This
quarter
is a
speed.
replay that is on a quarter of speed. But I'm taking it as a victory lap. For
It might
Sarah
as well be a
Saviron.
victory lap for Sarah Saviron.
She is looking very comfortable in that black, red, and white car.
Yeah, but with that said, let's take a look at our race results here. Definitely quite the upset of anyone's expectations here. Sarah Saviron, of course, taking the win here today in that 117 machine, getting by far her best ever finish. Even a top 10 would have been stellar for her, but she still managed to take the win here at Martinsville. Following her, also in her best ever finish in the league, is Lake in the 330 machine, followed by Dragon Space Queen with another podium for the Blazed and Drunk Drivers team in that number 37. Fourth place to Frosty Film in the number 7. Fifth to Maroon in the 25, who I believe is also having their best finish of the season here. Sixth to Piper in the 8 machine. Seventh to Pav in the 12. Eighth to Felix Marais in the 217, up 15 spots from where he qualified. I believe he was our biggest mover of the race. Ninth to Bendover in the 69. 10th to Valinar in the 776, who started in last this race, so a top 10 is very good for him. 11th to Bloody Wolf in the 93, who I believe that is his best finish in the league. 12th to Stick in the 53. 13th to Third in the 3. 14th to Halo in that 0 machine. After being involved in that big wreck, it still managed to get a fairly solid finish. Drop Table Roster, who started, I believe, in 3rd place this race, finished in 15th in that 369 machine. 16th to Octave in the 11th. 17th to Med in the number 1. 18th to Oh You Know in the 420 machine. 19th to Arbo Sobrov in the 429. 20th to Madcap in the 38 machine. 21st to Zoe in the 666 entry. 22nd to Humongous in the 621 machine. 23rd to Peak Comedy in the 717 after leading almost every lap of this race. And finally, rounding out the field, our only other lead lap contender until that incident, August in the number 21 machine. This was definitely a heartbreaker for a lot of these drivers.
An absolute Shakespearean tragedy at this track today, but only for some. For some people, this is a dream come true. For Sarah Saviron, for Halo, not Halo. Can you scroll up? Yes, Lake, for Space Dragon Queen. This is a dream come true. Even Maroon, who has had some good races in the past, but never quite edging to the top. Hopefully, they can secure another podium in the future. But yeah, this is the track where dreams are made and dreams are broken absolutely on their backs. So what a race today, fans.
Indeed, but that's all we got here with our rodent-infested booth at the Martinsville Speedway. We will both see you next Saturday at noon for our round 6 at the Lanier Raceway.
Round 6 marks the halfway point through the Ottercar Racing Series, and we hope you'll all join us there next time.
I'm sure there will be plenty of shenanigans, but thank you all race fans. We will see y'all next week.